Also, we highly appreciate your support for our quantum computing club, and I'm sure everyone here is excited to learn more about this, rapidly evolving field. So, without further ado, I will hand over the mic to Tariq to, kick off the discussion.
Hello everyone. Hello Amro, nice to meet you. I hope this meeting will be very well and very good. We will start. I don't know if you like. We're good to start to introduce ourselves, Amro, to the people are in the meeting.
Sure, absolutely. Um, well, my name is Amr Imam. I've lived about 20 years of my life in the UAE. I'm from Egypt originally. My background is in physics. I did a bachelor's in physics at the United Arab Emirates University. It was a general physics track, but I tried to get exposure to as many different fields of research as I possibly can get my hands on to know what I truly was interested in and what I'd like to dedicate my time to. So it was a combination of nanophysics, some nuclear physics, and then towards the end of my graduation, I tried to get my hands into the lab to see if I would be any good as an experimentalist. And the outcome of that was absolutely not. I should not use any of my fingers in the lab. That was extremely insightful. So if you're going through a similar process, exploring is always a good thing. Even if you don't find what you like, you can definitely find out what you don't like, which is equally valuable as well. And then from that, I worked as a research assistant in extragalactic astronomy at New York University in Abu Dhabi. And from there, I moved to New York in the United States to pursue a master's in applied physics at NYU, where my focus was on quantum computing and information, particularly Grover's search algorithm at the Center for Quantum Information Phenomena. And in May of 2023, I graduated from that program, and shortly after, a couple of months after that, I joined Sandbox AQ. And the AQ in Sandbox AQ stands for Artificial Intelligence and Quantum. And my job here has been less so of research and more so with a focus on education. And it has two primary pillars. Essentially, it's uplifting and making sure that there are enough efforts to, you know, empower the workforce, especially the youth, to be able to participate more effectively in the AQ ecosystem, but also to allow and catalyze collaboration between academia, universities, and whatnot, but also industry, companies that are in the AQ ecosystem, and more recently as well, governments. Um, and so it's very interesting as a perspective to take off the researcher hat and then move into a focus of pure education, where I'm also at the same time not teaching, but kind of dealing in with the policies and the efforts that go into the idea or the discipline of education. And that has been extremely insightful. I'm very much looking forward to sharing some of that insight with you today.
Okay, nice to meet you. I have a question for that. What is sparked you to interested in computing, in quantum computing, like, and how did you begin your journey in this field?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it started off with my fondness of linear algebra, which led to kind of an appreciation of quantum mechanics. And from there, so before NYU, before I was doing my master's, I was, barely informed on what quantum computing and information is. But when I learned of the applications, what quantum computing could potentially unleash, it was very difficult for me not to embark on that journey, especially since it's, as someone with a background in quantum mechanics, you're very, you have the fundamentals to start delving in algorithms and whatnot. So it was a very seamless transition to the quantum computing field. And the more I learned about it, the more I was interested, and it seemed like it aligned perfectly with what I wanted to do at the time, at least. And so, yeah, it was birthed out of, first of all, the fact that I had the necessary fundamentals to transition seamlessly into the field, but also, and equally importantly, the potential applications that quantum computing and information could unlock. It's also super exciting to be like involved in a field that is just starting and it's just in its novelty, and to be part of that, I think, is something that's worthwhile.
That's very nice. And can you share a project or research paper or something that you do that make a significantly influence in your career in quantum computing?
You mean something that I read that helped me?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Or you do some project that you can share it with us.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to send a couple of resources. If you guys have an emailing list, I could send a couple of review papers. Those to me have been the most impactful, but there are also a couple of interesting papers that were not just interesting, but also very frightening. Maybe I could talk a bit about my thesis project. So my thesis project was, like I mentioned earlier, purely focused on Grover's algorithm. And as some of you might know, Grover's algorithm has a component that is called the oracle, which is essentially the function that is going to find a particular solution. And then after that, you amplify using a particular operation to make that answer that was selected by the oracle earlier more apparent, so that when you perform a measurement towards um, the end of your experiment after the circuit has been run, you are able to retrieve that solution that you're looking for. And so I was working on understanding that oracle for most of my master's thesis, because there wasn't really a lot of discussion for it. It didn't really make a lot of sense that there is this function that somehow exists and will always give you the right answer. And so my work was in two parts: demystifying what this oracle was, because I've always had a passion for education and explaining things, so I saw why not include that in my master's thesis as well, but also creating something for the oracle that could be used in any problem that deals with Grover's algorithm. So the main finding, or the main contribution that was from my master's thesis, was this algorithm to create an oracle, which translates to essentially a bunch of operations on a quantum circuit, so that regardless of the state that you're looking for, be it 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, you automatically get a translation from that state that you're interested in finding to components in a quantum circuit that could be appended to the circuit that you already have. And so towards the end of my master's thesis, super proud of everything that I've done, very excited to be done with this project that I've been working on. And then the scientist from the Flatiron Institute here in New York comes up with this paper that says Grover's algorithm offers no advantage. And you can imagine, this was like 2 weeks before I submit my thesis. And that almost like completely shattered everything that I completely worked on. But it turns out, after a couple of conversations that I had with some of the faculty at NYU, it turns out that some of the concerns that the scientists posed were valid, but not enough to conclusively say there is no advantage to Grover's algorithm, which was a healthy discussion. And so, yeah, I'm happy to share that heartbreaking paper with you, but also some of the more useful review papers that kind of helped me ease into the process of doing this type of work.
I'm sorry, but can I ask something before you continue, Tarek? Okay, great.
Yes, sure.
So I'm curious, since you started working with Grover's algorithm first, and then you delved deeper into other algorithms, do you think like starting with Grover algorithm would be better, or like it is the greatest or best step to do, or like do you think there's other algorithms that maybe starting with them would be easier?
That's a very good question. One thing that I can conclusively say is do not start with Shor's algorithm. So that's the one that gets the most hype, and it's rightly so, because it's an amazing algorithm, and it drove most of the interest in the field. But for someone that is just learning about quantum algorithms and computing, Shores is not the best place to start because there's a lot of math involved that isn't necessarily easy to comprehend. Grover is much easier to comprehend, and then there are other algorithms that you could start off with. And the good thing about Grover's algorithm is that once you have that understood, there's another more advanced kind of phase of it. So when I was discussing with you just now how I was looking for a particular state, there's an assumption that went in that, the fact that you know the answer that you're looking for. Very often in search problems, you don't know what you're looking for. You're looking for a particular match, but you don't know what this state is going to look like. And so, and sometimes you don't even know, not just that, sometimes you don't even know how many answers you have, because you could be asking a question that has 5 valid answers in the search space that you're looking for. And so after Grover's algorithm, there's a very interesting algorithm called quantum counting, which uses quantum phase estimation to be able to tell you how many answers exist in your solution space, which then feeds back into the number of iterations that you have to run for Grover. But again, that's a sidetrack. It's not necessarily answering the question. So before Grover's algorithm, there's also a bunch of fundamental algorithms that feed into Grover. What I would suggest is, first of all, to start with something that interests you, like to look at the application of it. Dutch Gyoza, for example, is a good place to start if you are interested in doing Grovers, because that's kind of a fundamental part of it. But definitely don't start with Shores. That's the thing that I can conclusively say. But you need something to fuel your interests. So it would be very helpful, and I could also share resources of this. Look at the different algorithms that exist and have, documentation and quantum circuits that have already been implemented, and look at what they serve, what purpose they serve. And if breaking the RSA encryption is something that you're interested in, then Shore is probably the thing that you will be looking forward to get. Try to get the fundamentals of that algorithm first, step by step, and make sure that one of the things that I think grounded me while I was doing my thesis is to not lie to myself. Like, if I don't understand something, stop for a moment, spend a day, a week, a month until you understand that concept before moving forward. Because if you brush it off and then you move on to the second step, thinking that, yeah, that's fine, it's not going to be useful or it's not going to be important at some point in time.
At some point.
Precisely. It comes back right at you. So just make sure that you're super honest with yourself. Even if you decide to completely ignore my advice and participate in Shore's algorithm, make sure that you don't move from step 1 to step 2 before completely comprehending and understanding step 1.
I want to go a step back about quantum coding. So, what essential coding skills should students focus on to excite to develop himself in quantum computing algorithm?
Yeah, I think the 2 major libraries are Qiskit and Cirq are being used. I personally find Qiskit extremely useful because it has not just a lot of functionalities. The documentation that exists for Qiskit is amazing, and like to very trivial details almost. And also on top of that, there are a lot of challenges that IBM submits, I think, twice a year now. There's like the spring challenge. I don't know if they have an equivalent of the fall challenge, where they submit projects online and anybody could participate, and it's for free. And then you're able, they start you off with like a large, what looks like a Jupyter notebook with a lot of the code already there, and then you fill in parts of the code. And so if you already have a background in Qiskit, it will be helpful. But at the same time, if you're trying to build upon that, you have so many resources and so many challenges that are available in Qiskit that you could start. But I think if you're looking for an advantage as a student of quantum computing and you want to set yourself apart, it's important to not restrict yourself to a single language. So let's say you're interested in participating in photonic quantum computing. Xanadu, which is a company in Canada that deals with photonic quantum computing, have their own language, which is called Penny Lane, or their own library. So it would make more sense for you to learn that. However, you should always have Qiskit as your baseline. And then hand in hand with the quantum libraries, just being able to be comfortable with Python overall. The fundamentals of Python will come a very long way, because almost all of these use Python logic, so it will be easy for you to translate from that to that. And then also, I think this is something I have not done, but I would delegate it to you as the younger generation participating in this. It would be interesting to see how you could leverage artificial intelligence, and not just ChatGPT, but the more code-focused GPTs, to see how it could help you with creating circuits and whatnots. I think that will be something interesting to explore, and would definitely set you apart from someone that is only accustomed to writing blocks of code themselves. But just as an important note for that, ensure that whatever result that you're getting from those code-based GPTs, that you understand what's going on, because that's equally important as well when you're trying to debug or you're trying to do something similar in a different project. If you do not understand what this block of code offers to you, you would not be able to reuse it again for another project, or you wouldn't even realize that, okay, this block of code could also be translated into that similar problem. So invest in the tools that would make your life easier, but at the same time ensure that you understand what these tools are doing.
Yes, so practicing is very important in this field, just to look to to practice in many resources and learn more skills that can help in this field. I have a question about the area of quantum computing, which, as you see, which like the area of quantum computing do you believe had or hold the most potential for the future job opportunities, and why this area? Because you mentioned that the AI is very important, and it's start the work with AI with quantum computing. But I think there is many different areas that also is very important that maybe we can focus. Maybe the job opportunity will be different from this field.
Yeah. So there are two primary fields that I think will benefit a lot out of the emergence of the quantum computing field. The first one is cybersecurity. And then the other is more computational chemistry. So one of the applications that we see a lot of demand in, and this is something that we can clearly see because this is something that we do at Sandbox as well, is companies and organizations that want to accelerate the drug discovery process. Generally, for you to get some drug from paper when you're first theorizing all the way up into the market, that process takes about 15 to 20 years. And a big portion of that is trial and error that happens in the lab with different potential druggable molecules, which takes a lot of time, very time consuming. And so what would be a better alternative is to simulate the behavior of these druggable options on proteins that exist in the body that you want to target with those drugs. And to do that on a classical computer is almost impossible, because the parameters that you need to take into consideration for a molecule that is more complex than carbon dioxide or water is exponential. Like the computational power that you need, the larger your chemical space is exponential. And that's one of the things that sets quantum computing apart for a commercial sort of application. I personally believe that a lot of the interests and a lot of the hype around quantum computing was birthed out of the security threat of breaking the RSA encryption using Shor's algorithm. But in terms of potential job opportunities, I think drug discovery probably has, many more avenues, drug discovery, but also material science, because that's a similar problem just applied to a different industry. That's where I see most of the job market leaning towards as of recently. There's also we've also noticed a slight increase in financial institutions such as banks, insurance companies as well, gaining interest in quantum computing, and some of them have quantum computing dedicated teams such as Bloomberg, JP Morgan, Morgan and Stanley, to be able to leverage the power of quantum computing for forecasting and prediction, for options, stocks, and also portfolio management. So a lot of optimization problems that financial institutions are interested in solving, and quantum computing has the potential to offer them that. But I don't know how early or how quickly jobs will be available for that market. The thing that I think is more ready and is more mature to receive quantum computing talents is the drug discovery and material sciences avenue.
Okay, that's nice. I want to go a step back again, and I want to ask you if you can tell us more about the sandbox and what is the role in advising quantum computing.
Sure. So I'm going to tell you something that might be surprising. At Sandbox, actually, we don't do any quantum computing. Our focus is on quantum technologies, which once efficient and valid quantum computing arrives, we will be able to leverage that computational power. But as of now, we only rely on quantum technologies. And we do this in 3 verticals. One, with the simulation and optimization team, which focuses on drug discovery and material sciences. And we try to leverage artificial intelligence and quantum in everything that we do in those 3 verticals. And so through the first one, we use artificial intelligence to kind of restrict the potential chemical space that we have access to. And then the quantum part is essentially using quantum data to make those informed simulations. And then we run those simulations on GPUs. So Sandbox AQ has an active collaboration with NVIDIA. And before GPUs, we were running them on TPUs, tensor processing units, which kind of lent itself in a way that was it was a good match with the type of problem that we were trying to solve with drug discovery. So that's the simulation and optimization front of Sandbox. We also have the quantum sensing group, which has 2 applications under them. One is for a medical device that we call cardiac with an AQ at the end. And what it essentially hopes to serve is as a very sensitive sensor to magnetic fields that are emitted by the heart. And so the quantum part in that is that the sensor itself is quantum. And the magnetic field that we're reading, we try to establish a library of healthy hearts and unhealthy hearts. And then using the classification algorithm, we are then able to discern between a healthy and a non-healthy heart using this quantum sensor without any invasive procedures. And there are particular signals there are particular advantages that are offered to us by looking at this magnetic field signal of the heart that is not available through an ECG, for example. And so that's one of the applications of the quantum sensing. And then another very interesting one that almost seems like science fiction, but we're actually doing the work, is quantum navigation, using the Earth's crustal magnetic field to be able to traverse and travel across vast arrays of land without having to use GPS, because GPS could be spoofed, could be jammed. If a particular adversary wants you to think that you're in some spot when in reality you're not, they could easily do that with GPS if they have the right technology. With a quantum sensor, they cannot do that. It becomes almost impossible to manipulate the magnetic field of the Earth. And I use the word almost for a reason. So there's that, and then the artificial intelligence component of that deals more with having to reduce the noise that you're feeding into this quantum sensor. So all you're interested in reading is the magnetic field of the Earth, but that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you're going to read. Probably going to have some effect from the tech that is on the airplane or on the ship that's carrying this quantum sensor. So you're using artificial intelligence models to ensure that the data that you're receiving only reads the magnetic field signal of the Earth and not anything else from the tech. And then finally, the third vertical is quantum communications and security, which has expanded more so to just deal with cryptography as a whole, not just quantum cryptography. So of course, QKD, quantum key distribution, is one of the more pertinent advantages of quantum technologies. But we're not dealing with quantum with QKD. What we are dealing with is PQC, post-quantum cryptography, to help organizations that have sensitive data, such as banks, governments, medical institutions that want to protect their data, to be able to transition into a form of cryptography that is resistant to valid and powerful quantum computers in the future. And we do this in a way, and we think that this is important to do now as opposed to later, because even though a valid and a powerful quantum computer does not yet exist to be able to break encrypted systems, people and organizations could easily store that encrypted information now, and in 4, 5, or 10 years' time, if that data is still relevant, once a quantum computer exists, that encrypted data could be decrypted, which is a big problem for these institutions. So PQC is part of what we do, but general cryptography library management is also something that we're very much involved in.
Oh,
and then
so
maybe
interesting.
sorry about that.
Okay,
The last
no.
thing is the education team, which I'm part of. And it essentially does what I described earlier as my role, but also we have a subsection of it that focuses purely on science communication and scientific content, to put it out there to explain fundamental concepts of what we do, but also of quantum computing and quantum technologies in general.
It seems like Sandbox is doing a lot. Like, it fits the name, Sandbox.
Yeah,
a lot
precisely.
Four categories.
Precisely. Some people like to call us as 3 startups in one, which is
Exactly.
very, very accurate. And I think Sandbox is able to do something like that because in reality it has received a lot of funding from our chairman, who's Eric Schmidt, who used to be the CEO of Alphabet. And it was about half $500 million in funding for a startup, which is not something.
That's a lot for a startup.
Yeah. So yeah, three startups within one sounds about right for that type of fund.
Great.
So, what challenge do you expect quantum computing to will face in the future, or to like, in field in the future?
So, quantum computing as a developing field, or from the perspective of people that are trying to get into the quantum computing field, but which one are you more interested in hearing about?
Yeah, I think 2 of them.
2 of them? Okay.
Yeah.
I think the one that is currently the biggest problem is probably error correction. That continues to be a difficult issue with interesting recent developments as of late. So error correction, I think, is what stands in the acceleration of the field, but it's something that is definitely being worked on actively, and a lot of research groups are doing the necessary work to pass through that. From the perspective of someone trying to get into quantum computing, I think now is a very good time to participate in the field, because there's always, like we always talk about, how there's a shortage of talent in the field. And what that essentially means is that there haven't been a lot of people that have been trained in quantum computing. So if you're someone that is actually interested in pursuing that field, now would be a great time for you to continue getting involved, continue getting informed on quantum computing, and to also try to get as much experience by dealing with actual projects and working on projects rather than only the theoretical part is absolutely important. The fundamentals are absolutely important for anybody that wants to work as a scientist or a researcher. But if we're talking about you being an attractive candidate for a particular company, what they're essentially interested in at the end of the day is what can you do? It's great if you have memorized, 4 books on quantum mechanics and then Mike and Ike's book on quantum computing from back to back. What can you do with it? And the more that you can show what you can do with this information, the more impressive your portfolio becomes to someone that is a potential recruit. So that's one thing. But in terms of a challenge, I think there has been a sort of fluctuation in funding for quantum. Sometimes it's lots. In 2022 and 2023, there was a lot of funding. In 2022, towards the end, there was a lot of funding, and then 2023, it started kind of plateauing, going down a bit. So funding for quantum computing, as a contrast to artificial intelligence, for example, is not as much. But at the same time, the interesting thing is that there are not as many quantum computing companies as there are with artificial intelligence, and there are not as many people that are working with quantum computing than they are with artificial intelligence. So that kind of gives the people that are interested in the field now an advantage, because they would be part of the early pace setters or the trendsetters in the field. What I would just highly emphasize and highly recommend is not to follow the hype and to actually sit down with yourself and see whether this is the field that you want to continue working in. And I'm happy to share more about my personal experience, perhaps towards the end, because it might be a bit unorthodox. But yeah, I'm happy to talk a bit more about that after all the questions that your group was interested in asking. All right.
Okay, that's great. So this is my final question from my side. What advice can you offer our quantum computing club on establishing partnership with industry or academic institutions?
That is a wonderful question. So I'm going to be as practical as possible. I'll try not to paint that the world is all rainbows and sunshine. You need to offer value for these companies. There are very few companies, very, very few companies that are interested in supporting the ecosystem in the same way that Sandbox AQ is. And even if they are interested, not a lot of them have the bandwidth to participate or collaborate with, a quantum computing club that's all the way across the other side of the world. And so for you to be able to be attractive as a partner, you need to show them some form of value. You need to show them some track record of things that you have done, where they can then point to you as a collaborator and say, look at who we have collaborated with. This is something that we're showing off to everybody. So essentially what you can do is find as many reasons as possible for these companies to want to collaborate with you before you start reaching out. And that could be in many forms. It could be how you've created a lecture series as a quantum computing club, for instance, to explain a particular algorithm or explain fundamental concepts in quantum computing. And then you could send them a link to the playlist that you've created. It could be a course that you've created and somehow published online. It could be, just pure text form, or it could be hosted a bit more professionally in one of the online course websites, such as Coursera or whatnot. It could be a consistent series of seminars that you have held at your university or at your club, where every week or every 2 weeks you invited a speaker from this spot here and there. And then once you have that track record, and then you're reaching out to a company, and they know and they see who you've spoken or who has spoken to you before, they are more interested to speak to you as a result of that. Another thing that I think would be pertinent, I'm not sure, has anybody from the Quantum Computing Club participated in the NYU Abu Dhabi Hackathon in the UAE?
Yes, actually, three of us,
Magnificent.
four of us, yeah.
Magnificent. Okay. So in effort of being as practical as possible, that is probably one of the best, if not the best place to network in quantum computing. So whenever you have a delegation that is sent out to the NYU Abu Dhabi Hackathon, hand in hand with them focusing on doing wonderfully in their projects in the hackathon, it's also extremely important for them to try and create meaningful connections and relationships with different different members that are participating in the hackathon. Somebody, maybe someone from NVIDIA, somebody from Sandbox, IBM, whatever it may be, and try to create a meaningful connection. And I stress the word meaningful, because if it's a transactional sort of relationship, it's generally something that will not go through unless the person is intrinsically interested in what you have to do. But building a project building rapport and building a meaningful connection by asking a question here and there, having a conversation, talking to them about your club, just make sure that you're not starting with the ask of them coming as a speaker. Could be something that you build up towards, and if you feel that that person would be interested, then that's the time to bring it up. But yeah, try as much as you can to build a name for the organization by creating value. And I think it would be not just helpful to the individual students if you participate in such projects, but also in setting a sort of level for the new students that are interested in this field to be able to participate. So one of the most important things in learning is context. And if you're someone that has lived here in the US for all your life, and then you come across documentation that explains quantum computing from the very beginning, or a talk or a lecture that talks about quantum computing from the very beginning, very often in those explanations you will find references to things that have happened in that educational process of someone that has lived in the United States, right? But that doesn't exist for learners in the Arab world, not in this field at least. And so it would be something of great value if, after the amazing effort that you've taken to understand quantum computing with the context that is outside of your community, and then create context for the new learners. And that could go as far as creating content in Arabic. That, I think, is one of the most amazing things that, like, whatever organization decides to embark on that, to create more resources in Arabic for quantum computing, that would be such a great advantage. You could probably find a lot of people that would be interested in investing in such a thing. I know I would. And so creating that context for the new generation of learners that come after you would be something that goes a very, very, very long way. And it might be a lot of hard work now, but whoever ends up receiving all of that hard work that you've created will be eternally grateful for you. And it could be one of the things that is a pillar, or is a main reason of why quantum computing flourishes in your community as opposed to others.
Actually, you have answered a question that I was about to ask, which is, quantum computing in the Arab world. Actually, we were doing this. So we were doing tutorials in quantum computing. We uploaded it on, actually between us, it was just on Google Drive. We never shared it. But lately, we uploaded it on YouTube. So we started discussing quantum computing kind of from scratch. We discussed quantum mechanics, then linear algebra, then jump to quantum mechanics, the basic terminologies. It's all there on YouTube. But like, you actually encouraged us that's the right path, right? I guess
that's absolutely the right path. I'm very glad to hear. I'm trying to view the link. I'm not sure if I have access to that.
I think it's in the wrong link. Just
yeah. And again, you could send me this in a different email so that I
yeah.
my comment. No, that's amazing. That's truly wonderful. And I think maybe this is a question that would be helpful. Is the majority of the students that are in the quantum computing club, are they Palestinians?
Yes, all of us.
Okay. So
We have students from different time zones. Like we have students in the U.S. that they're completing their grad school, but they're Palestinians.
amazing. So you guys are probably set to be at the forefront of this translation movement, and this is something that you're interested in doing, because I'm like the best Arabic speakers I've come across, formal Arabic speakers, are from Palestine. So more likely than not, you already have the tools to be able to do that. So it was something that I would 100% encourage you to continue doing. And if there's any way that I can help support an initiative like this, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Great, thank you. So you wanted to share your experience, and you said after he finishes his
Sure,
question.
Yes.
sure. I hope me sharing this doesn't erase any of the advice that I've given earlier. So after being in the field of quantum computing and also being in the field of physics research in general, um, towards the end of my master's thesis, I realized that this is not what I wanted to do. And I'm not talking about the quantum computing field. I'm talking about research as a whole. To me, it always seemed like learning about physics and learning about the fundamentals of physics was always remarkable, and it almost gave me this euphoric feeling to be able to understand the inner workings of everything that happens around us. But then I realized that and scientific research aren't necessarily the same thing, because with research you're answering very specific questions, and sometimes those questions are not that interesting. And I realized that towards the end of it, even though I appreciate and I respect the scientific research process so immensely, but it's not something that I see myself participating in for the rest of my life, at least as a career. I'm much more interested in education and creating organizations that have sustainable effects, not just for quantum computing, but for STEM fields in general, because I see for me, my vision doesn't just look at the present or in the future, as a matter of fact. A lot of my vision focuses on the past and the type of contribution that existed in our region, in terms of sciences and the foundations that we have laid that unfortunately many people have forgotten. I'm sure a lot of the participants in your club have not forgotten that, but many people have forgotten. And I think it's extremely important for us to constantly remind one another, generation after generation, of the amazing things that our ancestors have been able to do, that almost everybody around the world now, particularly the West, is reaping the benefit from, for us to realize that, creating and innovating within the field of STEM is nothing new. Like this is something that we've done. As a matter of fact, we've almost pioneered the idea of doing that. Ibn al-Haytham, for instance, the father of modern optics, if you look at history, he's actually the person that started the scientific method. It wasn't Francis Bacon or Roger Bacon in the 1600s or the 1700s. It was actually Ibn al-Haytham. So it's kind of, I took it upon myself to embark on that journey, and I do a bunch of that separately aside from my job on social media. I try as much as I can. But also I'd like to do it more on an institutional and organizational level, so that amazing researchers and scientists as yourself have the necessary playground and have the resources and the network to do what they want to do best. And so all that I want to get out, because of out of that entire discussion, is that it's extremely important to be honest to yourself, in terms of what you're interested in doing, because it's good to do work out of duty and out of a sense of responsibility. But if you do something that you're not interested in, especially over a span of a couple of decades, 2 or 3 or 4 decades, it's not really a worthwhile type of living. But if that's what you're interested in, that's, again, I completely understand and fully respect that. But if you find that there's something adjacent that you would fall in love with and be passionate about, that's where I would recommend you direct your forces, because then you become much more effective, when you actually are interested and you are passionate about the thing that you do.
We can all sense the, your passion towards giving knowledge. I'm sure everyone sensed this. And yeah, that's inspiring. You guys, if anyone here that later on this journey feels that they don't like what they are doing, definitely there is, there is time that you can go back and just like, yeah, what am I doing? And try to find your new path. But I hope quantum computing so far will interest you because that's what we're doing at this moment.
It will be very disappointing for myself if I
Yeah,
came here
exactly.
and the result was that everybody doesn't want to do quantum computing. I really hope that's not the result.
Yeah, I hope that too. So that was great discussion. I don't know if anyone here has a question. Please feel free to ask. Yeah, Khaled. That's a great question.
The answer to this question would highly depend on what you want to do in the field. My lab, for instance, even though my focus was on quantum algorithms, I would not recommend for someone that is interested in doing quantum algorithms because their focus was more on topological superconducting qubits, the creation of them. And that was a lot of experiment. So it's an amazing lab for someone that wants to focus on that, but not equally, at least, when it comes to the realm of software and algorithmic thinking. So the way that I would pursue it is, first of all, if this is now a step for you to pursue graduate school, you should have a general idea of what you would like to participate in when it comes to the quantum computing field. If not, then maybe it's a good idea to look for labs that delve in many things. I think the University of Toronto is a good example of that in Canada. They have a bunch of different teams under their quantum computing center. And so that kind of offers you the ability to go to the university and then play around with different labs. So if you're still undecided on that, you should pick a center that is more vague in terms of its focus. But if you already know what you want to work on, let's say you want to work on quantum security, for example, PQC or QKD, then you look for the research labs that are heavily focused on that, and then you look at the quality of the papers that they have published. But on top of that, something that I would really like to stress, and this is I was fortunate enough to get this advice before pursuing graduate school, is to also have a big focus on the advisor that you're choosing. So it's not just the name. The name is extremely important. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. The university that you graduate from is actually extremely important. But make sure that the advisor that you're going to be working with for 5 to 6 years is someone that would work with your personality. And the only way for you to learn more about that before having to go all the way over there to the university is to ask the students that have been working with that professor's lab. And you could reach out to them on LinkedIn. You could ask someone that might know someone, or you could directly, if the only line of contact you have is with the professor, you could ask the professor to put you in contact with his or her graduate students. And that's a completely valid thing to ask. And then you could ask them a bit about what type of work they do, what type of supervisor the principal investigator is. Are there chances for conferences? Are you able to participate in multiple research projects at the same time, or is it pure focus? Is there a lot of micromanagement, or does the professor give you the ability to do whatever you'd like to pursue? All of these are relevant questions that I think would be very important to your choice of graduate program. But also, it's where you graduate from is, from what I've noticed, very important.
I think adding up. It's not adding up. It's almost the same point as be specific as possible, because quantum computing is a huge field. So saying like I want to work in quantum computing, or I want to, participate in a grad school in quantum computing, that is too general. Just be, know what you want, I think, and then like be specific in order to be able to offer any value. So I think that's your point. I'm trying to emphasize it again. Um, so great. Is there any more questions, guys? If not, we highly appreciate your support again, and we thank you so much. And I hope you're gonna see us like growing, and this not ever gonna go to waste.
Not at all. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to be speaking to such diligent and motivated students, and internally motivated at that. And I'm happy to support in any way. So if nobody has a question now, and you think of a question later on that has to do with a career in quantum or something else, please feel more than free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So if you could share that with the group, if anybody has any questions, that would be.
Okay, I will share it with you guys. I will send it to you. And also, Hudaifa sent the YouTube channel on the chat again.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Amr, again. And hope to see you in near future.
Inshallah.
Goodbye, everyone. Inshallah. Goodbye.
Come on.
Thank you.